Okay, so I pulled a couple cards for a reading here, and we have, I bought this deck. It's actually to play card games, but it's pretty neat because it can be used as an oracle deck also. I really like it because it's like small and it's a pretty dark deck. But it's really neat. So I pulled, what is it, 4 cards. Again, no specific type of spread. Just pulled some cards, stopped when it felt right, and then I'm using the Muse Tarot to further explain it. I think I used this deck in one other of the recorded readings. So I just want to make note that every single card that came out from the tarot deck not only came out in the upright, but is a major arcana card on top of that, just to further like drive it home. On the bottom of the deck is Temperance, okay? And on the top of the deck, the Star card. So, now, I mean, statistically speaking, there's only 22 major arcana cards in the 78 deck, so that's pretty rare in itself that all those cards came up not only upright but all major arcana cards, and that on either end of the deck, top and beginning, it is a major arcana card. So you know what, I'm gonna pull these cards out, kind of just prop them up here, and they are going to be a part of our reading now. And I'll delve into them at the end. I feel like that's when I should probably get into those. Those will be the final message. So, okay, so the first card that I pulled out was the 8 of Hearts, and this particular card says, the child of 3, the die will be cast where the moon cannot see, freed from the shell at last, the child of 3. So another thing that I noticed just going through these cards, and that reminded me of it reading that, is this card references the moon, this card references the moon, this card references the moon, and this card references the moon. Look at that. Doesn't that look like a wave? Doesn't that? Isn't that interesting? So the moon is definitely playing a role in what's happening in this energy. I guess it would make sense that all the cards that are pulled from the Muse Tarot are major arcana, because the major arcana cards usually represent some type of celestial body within our sky. Don't ask me what they are, because I don't go by the characters, I go by the deck, and this particular deck, they don't reference that information. But here, with this card here, when I read it, it says the die will be cast where the moon cannot see, freed from this shell at last, the child of 3. So a couple things come to mind. So it's in the reversed, so I feel like that's saying people are feeling, or maybe you may be feeling trapped, because it says here, freed from the shell at last, the child of 3. Maybe feeling like you're not able to create the way you want to, feeling confined, I'm also getting, especially with the death card here, to further explain it, of old paradigms dying, because a traditional old paradigm that is dying, speaking of dying, is dying. Let's talk about how, you know, a lot of people still feel this way, but unless you were devoutly religious, you know, scientifically speaking, when you die, your body rots and you're no more. And this says, where the moon cannot see, so being or doing something that you've never done before and can't know what it is, kind of like the dark side of the moon. Like death, you think that I never died before because I'm alive, and I have no idea what that means. And it says freed from this shell, so that's pretty clear. Freed from your body. At last, the child of three. At last, the child of three is like saying that that's when the religious part of it comes in, where, you know, the Holy Trinity, you know, meeting, going to heaven or going to hell. That's in the reverse. So I feel like this is talking about having a different idea of what that means, especially not only coming at it from a spiritual aspect, but from a scientific aspect. And death is all about transformation and releasing old paradigms that no longer serve you. With this transformation comes the realization that everything that you need, you already have contained within you. This is talking about truly, you know, this is the end of a cycle and the beginning of a new cycle, which, by the way, that is what this Wheel of Fortune is also, with it being in the upright. Again, a wave. So this wave is here, and then this this wave is here. So there's like all these underlying timelines and universes all coexisting and at the same time, not necessarily in the same space, but in the same multiverse. And I was listening to this lady, Marina Jacoby, and I had no idea she was a channeler, actually. I just thought I was watching an episode, something that had to do with the quantum realm, which I love. I love hearing different people's perspectives about it, especially ones that aren't necessarily scientists, because I'm not a scientist, but I understand the concepts. But some of it's really hard to grasp when you're talking about quantum sciences. So anyway, as I was watching it, I found out that she is, in fact, a channeler, amongst other things, but I'm not going to get into that. The reason I bring her up is she talks about, in the quantum realm, that 1 + 1 = 3. Now, in our 3D plane, in our linear timeline, we know that 1 + 1 = 2. And for somebody to stare you right in your face and be like, 1 + 1 = 3, you would laugh and just be like, what the hell? Is that supposed to be funny? Like, how stupid are you? Everyone knows 1 + 1 = 2. So this is another idea of old paradigms dying, and what she means by 1 + 1 = 3 is she talks about how, well, I'm not going to get into the deep part of that. If you want to know, look up her stuff. She knows what she's talking about. I'm like pretty amazed with everything that I've encountered with her work so far. She has 4 books on her website that are absolutely free for you to read. She has a whole crap ton of videos on her YouTube page, which is the something reactor or something. I'm so bad with remembering names. I highly recommend looking into her. But anyway, she talks about, in reality, especially in the quantum realm, but also in our realm, because it's all connected. When one person co-creates with another person, they don't add up and make two. They make a third. You know, kind of like when two people do it and they have a kid, you know, they make another baby. That's an example of 1 + 1 = 3 in our field of existence. And it's now is the time of this new paradigm where we start to really understand how reality works, and it's starting to be broken down into like mathematics and formulas and things that aren't so woo-woo, shall we say. And again, this is a major transformation cycle. What are you doing, Anubis? My cat is stalking my big toe. Yeah, so when you talk about death and you talk about what we really are, is everything is energy, and it's science. It's a scientific fact that energy cannot be destroyed. It transforms. So when you're in the quantum realm, there is no dying. From moment to moment to moment, because every now is all that there is, and everything is existing simultaneously. Why, if you are energy, in essence you are everything that is, in essence, God, why would you choose death? And how could you choose death? How could you really? You can't self-terminate. So the next now, you wouldn't be dead, you would just be in a new now. Death is an optional experience, and it's up to you what you want to experience. And I'm not going to get too deep into that, but maybe I might come back to it. So then the next card here is the Keeper of Coin. Wealth, influence, secrets. There is no limit to what you can learn about someone from their spending habits. So uh-oh, what's happening, Anubis? Have you ever had that experience where you were thinking deeply about something, where you were trying to work out a problem, where you're encountering a new situation? I don't know what's happening. Something's happening in my living room. Now you realize what's the deepest interpretation here. At that moment, at that exact moment that you realize the solution or the interpretation, not a half a second later, at that moment, did you understand anything about the solution? See ya, Maria. Think back to the moment you solved the problem. You were in the shower. Oh, I got it. I know I got it. I have no idea what it is. Okay, I don't know if that stopped the recording. Did that stop the recording? Hey, it's still going. Okay. All right, so yeah. So right away, this makes me think about, you know, how the wealth is unfairly distributed throughout the world, and how very few people contain the majority of the wealth, and those people assume power because we've decided as a collective that money equals power, even though that paradigm is changing more and more. Again, with these first two cards here of old paradigms dying and new transformations taking hold. And it talks about being able to know who somebody truly is by their spending habits. And the first thing that comes to mind when I hear that, I mean, besides the wealth thing, is if you want to know what the truth is behind something, follow the money trail. Especially with these people that are in power, our government officials, the shadow government, whatever, the military complex, all these different, the privatized corporations that basically run our country and the world. If you want to know the truth about a story you're hearing, especially when it comes to the news, do your research and follow where the money goes. You talk about like all these electric cars and Tesla and everything. They're supposed to be so great and environmentally friendly, but guess what? They run off of electricity. Where does the majority of electricity come from? Yeah, okay, you can make those batteries or whatever, but how do you charge those batteries? You charge it by plugging it into a charging station, which is fed off of the grid, which comes from coal. How is that environmentally friendly? It's not. It's a lie. And a lot of it, you can, if you just pull your head out of your ass and pay attention to what's really going on, especially if you follow the money trail, you can see the truth behind the facade. And that is definitely what the High Priestess is all about here. The High Priestess is the keeper of secret knowledge. That's why the moon, she's always depicted with the moon. And here's the magician, which in most decks, the magician, in my opinion, is the masculine version of the High Priestess. But in this particular deck, there are no men. There are only women. So of course it's a female magician, but whereas she keeps the secrets, she holds the keys. She only allows those that are chosen to come into her sanctum to learn her knowledge. You have to be of a certain caliber and chosen to what those qualities are. I mean, that's up to her. She's the High Priestess. She's the one who holds the knowledge. But what I really feel like that's saying is that we hold all the keys, we hold all the knowledge, we have it all. We just again need to pull our head out of our ass. Oh look, and I just noticed here the Temperance card that I just pulled out has the moon cycles on it again. I might have to read what that flower is. I feel like it might have something to do with the moon, which is interesting because that's exactly what this card is in this deck. Okay, so, and here the High Priestess is, these two cards came out together. So again, this is talking about another cycle coming to an end. So we're releasing old paradigms about reality, or what we thought reality was, and having transformations because of that. And then we're releasing old paradigms with money and power by realizing the knowledge that we've had all along within us. And here we are again on the wheel. And part of the reason why the High Priestess is choosy about who she releases her information to or reveals her secret knowledge to, and the different things that she's capable of seeing and bringing into life, is because it has to line up. That's why she holds the keys. And if you're on the wrong place, if you're not ready to receive that information, it could get you stuck on the wheel. The Wheel of Fortune, one talks about luck. It also talks about allowance, like knowing that when you're down, that as long as you accept what's happening and what's going on and you don't fight it, and you don't try to control it, but you accept it, the wheel will keep turning and you won't be stuck in karma. And you know that even though you're down now, it's not going to stay that way, because change is a constant. And if you try and fight against that change, you're creating a glitch in the matrix. So that's essentially where karma comes from. So this high priestess here, you know, she knows these kind of things, and she sees those types of things and the alignment and things like that. And she is not going to impede on someone else's free will, because, you know, she just is so eager to share. And okay, what am I trying to say? So like, if you gave somebody the power, this this new energy source, and their place on the wheel was of down here in a lower vibrational plane, so they're going to use this power to see how they can suck the life force out of other people in order to get more power. It's not going to be enough. They're going to try to find ways to charge people for it. They're going to try to find ways to make sure that no other power source is available, that they monopolize everything. Okay, you give that same information to somebody that's on a higher part of the wheel, in a more higher vibratory field, they're going to use that information to share. They're not going to try and charge for it. They're not going to try and force it down your throat. They're not going to make you feel like that's your only choice, which segues into this card here. I don't know how to say that word. I'm pretty sure it's a made-up one. Maybe it says lilium, blooming only during the full moon. Its seeds are one of the only known cures for lycanthropy, which is a pretty word for being a werewolf or some type of were creature. And the reason I said that segues into this card is because so here I feel like this is talking about like medicine, and like in the upright they're like, this is the only one that cures this disease. And it's in the reverse, and you're like, no, you're not going to sit there and tell me that this is the only way to help my health, either mental or physical. And there's a lot of things right now going on with our health, with things spreading from person to person. And there are those that are in power that if you follow the trail, you know, like, why are there patents on the vaccinations for CV-19? Why aren't they patent free? I wonder why. You follow the money trail to these quote unquote cures, and it makes you think there's got to be another way. And there, of course, there always is. There's always another way, especially when you live in allowance and you don't try to control everything, and you keep your mindset in a higher vibratory field. You will, when you co-create with other people in your reality, the third result that you will get will be of a positive forward mindset or positive forward reality versus one of the negative. And this is the thing that we're waking up to now. And to further explain this card is the Magician. So where the priestess has all this knowledge and seek power, she kind of is hesitant to share it because she doesn't want it to get into the wrong person's hands. The Magician isn't sharing either, but they aren't worried about anybody seeing what they can do. They work with the elements of the natural world as well as the love and intentions that exist within them, and bring them together to create 3. Again, 1 + 1 = 3. The magician's inner power with nature's outer power, combine it together, creates a whole new reality. Yeah, and then there is an eclipse coming up. There's a solar eclipse coming up, I think May 26th. A lot of people have been talking about it. I don't really know if anything's gonna come of it. I personally feel like committing to a specific date or a specific title or a specific outcome isn't living an allowance. It's putting expectations on certain things, which is the opposite of living an allowance. And that's kind of, that's what's happening here with this, with the magician is not worried about crossing that line, where the high priestess is worried about crossing that line of living an allowance. But look, you see that the high priestess and the magician are on either side of the wheel, and they're all in the upright. This is complete alignment here. This is complete alignment, and not only within yourself, but with your environment and the ethers. This is where magic happens, my friends, where magic lives. That third reality that's created is the in-between state, where there's unlimited potential of the possibilities that could come out. But you have to understand that just like you have a hand in creation, so does that other consciousness that you're co-creating with have a hand in the creation, and they have free will as well. So you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You can't just be so stuck on one idea and close yourself off to others. I mean, you can, but you're only limiting yourself and the possibilities. And I feel like this is also talking about learning how to heal yourself through working with the energies of the elements, because in the magician it's kind of abstract in this deck, but this deck doesn't have, I don't think this deck has swords and stuff. None of the, oh yeah. It's like inspiration, emotions, and I don't know what the other 2 are, because there are no minor cards here. They're all major arcana, and I don't use this deck a lot. So, yeah, this is, and it look like down here, doesn't that look like some like Mayan or some, what's the Mexican, the Aztecs? It looks something, right, like that. And both of those guys had calendars. I was actually just watching that before I started to record, and it was just something that popped up on YouTube because I wasn't really paying attention to YouTube. I was just pulling cards, and he was talking about the Mayan calendar had 2012, whatever the date was, that was supposed to be a great shift. But the Aztec calendar is actually May 26th of 2021, which is when we have the solar eclipse. He also talked about how the Mayan calendar had Saturn in the center of their calendar. They're a Saturnalia occult, which oddly, oh, it's not really, I always say oddly enough, that's based off of Saturn occult, and all that stuff is the basis of what they call Satanists today. So And then the Aztec calendar has a sun, a god that represents the sun. So they were another word for sun is soul. They were a soul cult, which sounds like God, right? The light, one dark, one light. Talking about cycles, right? So it kind of seemed like 2012, or yeah, 2012, it kind of like things just started getting bad, right? And maybe not bad, but like harder, and not just in our own personal lives, but like everywhere. And people were faced with some hard truths and things that they need to deal with, not just personally, but like in the world. And it's kind of coming to a culmination now, right? And look, the star, which is a sun, our sun is the star, and then temperance, which is depicting the moon. This is all bright and sunny, and this is all dark, and all the stars are out. The light and dark coming together as one. This transformation that's taking place now and going to be culminating, reaching the highest levels soon. Again, I don't know if it'll happen on the 26th. Maybe it will for some, maybe it won't for everyone. But there is a definite theme of balance and coming together and understanding your true abilities and your true power, and understanding that you have all the power because you are connected to everything, and everything is connected to you because you are everything, and everything is you. And then we have this card. So it says the wax head devout. The wax is pure. It burns away so cleanly. You too can be as the wax is. It only needs to wash over you. I mean, that looks like some weird ass occult shit, right? And honestly, that's kind of how I feel about a lot of different religions. And I don't know, you look at someone else's religion and you're like, wow, that's weird. This reminds me of a time my son was taken to a funeral. He was with his girlfriend or something, and they went to a funeral. It was like of his girlfriend's neighbor or something. So he inadvertently got dragged to this funeral, and he wasn't even prepared. He wasn't dressed for it. You know, he was wearing like sports clothes. And this lady, I believe she was Indian, like from India. And apparently in their culture, they cremate the body during the funeral, and people stand around and while the body's being cremated to watch it, and it takes hours. And my son kind of got pulled into this and he said the smell was horrible and it was horrific, and he'll never forget it. And I don't even know if I could stand to like sit there and endure that, but that was normal to them. That was part of their culture. I look at that like, that sounds absolutely horrifying, but it was just something that was part of their culture, and no one thought about it, gave it a second thought. So this card in reverse, I feel like, is talking about having enough perspective to see how ridiculous some things are, especially when it comes to certain rituals that you maybe have participated in or believed in, or that other people are participating and believe in. These rituals don't have to be religious in nature, but it's like if you don't do these things, then you're not good enough to call yourself whatever. And you're starting to you see the folly in that kind of thinking, because that's thinking in lack, thinking that you're not enough unless you do these things, which you're not down with that. You're not down with that. And to further explain that is justice, and that's literally like you don't feel obligated to suppress how you feel, to live the way others want you to live, because that's what tradition says you should do, and that's what tradition says you should think, and that's what tradition says you should feel. And you know that serves a great injustice to you, especially where your heart energy is concerned, because if it makes you feel alien in your own skin, how can that be good? How can that be right? And how could pouring hot wax all over you, like to the point where you look like a candle, and they're lighting a candle thing over your head, that looks like that person probably can't breathe. Maybe that's their burial ritual. It's weird, right? It's absolutely pointless. It doesn't make any sense. So justice is here to talk about, because you're again on this wheel. First off, you have fortune here, you have secret knowledge here, you have transformation, and you have the will of yourself and the universe co-creating together. All of this combined is all accomplished through allowance and believing that you and you alone are capable of doing anything and everything that you wish to do. And this is justice coming through. And look at these two cards, how, well, there's actually 3 cards now that I see. And this card, the star card. Look how they all got a light coming from their head, going out into the infinite. This is talking about your third eye being open. This is talking about you being hit to the game and understanding that this is just a game. This is you understanding that you make the rules because you hold all the keys and you hold the scales. Only your opinion matters here. There is no heaven, there is no hell, there's no judgment, there's no one in charge. If all the sheep decide to turn at once against the sheepdog and trample him to death, I guarantee you that that dog would not be able to outrun those sheep and he would be killed. But it's all a matter of perspective. This is you breaking out of your shell, where it talked about here, but this talks about death. This is you breaking out of your shell and becoming more. And that's the truth of it. Look, the first card and the last card, right? That's the truth of it. And then the last message here that I'm getting, oh, and I wanted to bring this up too. So how all of these cards, these cards all have their a connection, a source coming from their crown. It's coming from their crown. It's not coming from outside of them. It's coming from them. Look at this card. The light is coming from outside of them and they're dead. You're deciding that you're not putting up with that kind of mindset and that thinking anymore. There's nothing anyone can say or do to convince you otherwise. And then the last 2 cards here is the Star card and Temperance. Both of these cards are talk about healing. both of these cards talk about normally temperance is an angel. Oh yeah, I wanted to see if it said something about the flower, that flower. What is that, 14? Oh, blending energies, of course. No, it doesn't. It doesn't say anything about that. So I was inadvertently talking about temperance before I even got to temperance. But temperance is all about alchemy, talking about working with the ethers and with the environment in order to create something new. 1 + 1 = 3. And this is all about being balanced and in allowance by using what you need just when you need it in order to create exactly what it is that you're trying to create. And this is through allowance and being balanced. And the star card, this is again talking about your connection with the universe. This is talking about the universe like working for you, because it is reflecting back to you what you are, but you're in flow with everything that's happening. So there isn't a conflict. It just flows. Right. One cannot exist without the other. So I just need to look at these cards here for a minute. I feel like both of those two cards, the star card and the temperance card, look like they're two people waking up to something. She kind of looks like she's kind of stark and kind of like she just saw her face for the first time and she thinks she's beautiful. And then this over here looks like she saw something with her mind's eye and it was the first time and it was so real. It looks like she's going to have some type of astounding emotion because of it. And she's clothing herself in the earth. So this is definitely talking about being connected not only to the 3D plane but the etheric plane. This is talking about receiving downloads and information as well as giving them, like here and here. People around you and in your environment around you is affected by the energy that you're putting out. And just like a battery, there's an input and there's an output, and you are a working light, battery, whatever. You are so powerful and so strong. And it's like you're learning for the first time. And I say it's like you're learning for the first time because you've just forgotten. But there's nothing bad in this reading. There's nothing bad. Everything's all good. Like, ain't shit getting by you. None of the BS you're not falling for it. You're speaking your truth, you're living your truth, you're being your truth, and it is changing everything around you, and it's happening very fast. I'm just gonna say, that's a lot of cards. Can I just have one more card for final? I know I said the Star and the Temperance was gonna be the final, but let's just... Alright, so it's taking a minute, so I'm just going to pull one out from the middle. 8 of Emotions. Doesn't that look like a black hole? That is the first minor arcana card pulled out there. Usually this card talks about, you know, forward movement, traveling, communication, quick communication, receiving downloads. Right, the black hole, the black hole, the black hole. The black hole is where we need to operate. The black hole is that of neutrality. That is how you live in allowance. That is how you have motion and not emotion. That is where the universe gives you miracles. That is where you think you don't have any money in the bank and you check your bank account, you don't, but you're just like, oh, okay, well, I still want to do this thing, so I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get dressed, I'm gonna go there, and I'm gonna do it. And when you're in your car, you find like a $20 bill or something that you know, you had forgotten that you had in the car, and people say it's a coincidence, it's a coincidence. No, it's not a coincidence. That's what happens when you live in allowance, in neutrality. This is also 0 point energy. Yeah, that reminds me of a 0 point energy engine. We have to see through the BS of what people are, or the powers that are running things for now. The bullshit that they tell us, especially when it comes to like energy, and their ideas about money and life and death and health and medicine and religion. All of it. You gotta see through the BS, and the easiest way to do that is to live in a state of neutrality. And that's hard because we're humans and we have emotions, but it takes practice. You know, when you feel yourself being pulled in a certain direction, and not so much when it's, you know, geared towards the positive, but when it's geared towards when you find yourself being pulled in a direction where it's negative, angry, afraid, scared, lonely, depressed, all those things. What happens when you start to co-create with people, and your people or your environment, the third reality that you create, the 1 + 1 = 3, will be more negatively oriented, versus if you're going towards a higher vibrational type of energy, the 1 + 1 that equals 3 will be higher vibratory, and that's where you get those miracles. You can't live in lack. You can't. People think that they have to have money in their bank all the time to be happy. What we really need to ask ourselves in the moment, do I have a roof over my head? Am I starving? You know, if you have kids, are my kids starving? Do they have a roof over their head? Do I have, you know, everything else that I need in this moment? And the answer is always yes. It's not if the answer is yes. The answer is always yes. Because what you want, when you say I want something, what you're saying in essence is you want it because you don't have it. And that's living in lack. And the more and more you get yourself in that mindset of not living in lack, living in neutrality, trying to refrain from being too emotional, especially when it comes to the negative emotions. You know, the more you're putting yourself in that forward motion to be on the path of positivity, where miracles are just waiting to show up. I mean, the miracles happen in the negative too, but we don't look at them as miracles because they're bad. You know, more bad things will just continue to happen. And that's how that works. And with that, I'm going to end my reading. If you get a chance, please hit the like button. And thank you so much for coming to my channel. And I really hope that you got something out of it. And have a wonderful, beautiful day. And remember to love yourself. And the rest will follow.